you have to be cognizant of change management, that people come into every situation with different feelings and different ideas. They may come into that day having argued with their child, and they're going to be upset because of that, and they're not going to agree with anything you're talking about. Right? So there's a ton of information that's coming in to the meeting that has nothing to do with the meeting or the project. So you have to be concerned about that. Then you have the other side of it is people are going to have to change how they do things. And we all love to change how we do things, right? Like, how many have a Facebook page? Come on. How many are playing Angry Birds right now? How many have switched over to the new timeline? Okay, a few of you. How many are resisting that switch? Because it's coming, you know, right? End of March? They've told us many times. I'm not on Facebook, my wife is. Actually, Lean Fox Solutions has a Facebook page. But we're resisting that change, right? You know it's inevitable. But I'm going to wait until the last dang minute. And why are we resisting it? Say it's different.
Takes you out of your comfort zone.
Take you out of your comfort zone. And dang it, they're doing it to us, right? I had no input. That Zuckerman, whatever his last name is, if I find that little guy, right? You know he's just sitting awake at night going, how do I mess with him next? And that's exactly it, because we've had no input. Think about that as you're doing that to that frontline person that probably has been there 15, 20 years at your office. You know, and they don't like change, they're uncomfortable. And you lay on top of bad economic times, everybody's fearful, and you're going to do process improvement. Always remember, people will come at things at a different pace. And somebody may never change. And you may be surprised that, oh my gosh, that person, they really want to change. I had a guy come in, it was redesigning an emergency department. John, he was a nurse, he'd been there for, I think, since he was 12. And he worked the afternoon shift. And he came in, he sat down, his arms across, and he says to me, I Googled your name last night. It's like, oh, Jesus, what did my wife put out on Facebook now? Probably that picture. So he said, I don't care if you did, I don't care if you had that book. I don't care if you presented here, blah, blah, blah. If you don't do this, I've seen a ton of you guys come and go. And I said, John, come sit right next to me. I figured he had a negative attitude, but he didn't know how to articulate his ideas. By the end of the project, he had, probably if he had contributed 15 ideas, 10 of them were really, really good, and we implemented them. It was just, over the years, he had yipped in somebody's ear long enough that they started to ignore him, right? So think about those individuals can be very helpful. I always say there might be a nugget in there of all that complaining they're doing that might be exactly what you need to do. And God forbid, give them credit, right? Because if you don't, they're gone. Here's kind of the curve on accepting change. You have the early innovators, which I would assume all of you are. That's us over there. We're a very secluded group. Then you have the early adopters, right? They want to do it, they just want a little bit of proof. And then they're on it, and they're with you. Then you have the late ones, the fence sitters. And then you have the resistors. Where do we spend most of our time trying to get, right? This end, these resistors? My guess is leave them alone for a while. And then and get these other ones, and then you get everybody on board with what you want to do. And sometimes I put the physicians in that resistor mode, right? A lot of times, I've been in hospitals and physician practices, and if that doc would just come in on time, if that doc would just do this, if that back and forth, leave the doc alone for a while. Look at how you can improve their work environment. For example, how many times does your physician come in and out of their office because they're looking for something, right? So figure out go to them, figure out how do I get what you need, or just watch. You know what they need. You standardize every room in your office, in your clinic, right? So then if that doc's in room 1, 2, or 3, they have exactly what they need. It's all in the right spot, all right there. So now they're no longer coming out. And eventually they'll see this and go, hey, things have changed. Staff's not complaining as much. What are you doing? And then you got them, right? So it just, you have to approach them differently. This is a quick slide on the kind of the areas we go through. We have shock and surprise, denial and refusal. I did a billing department once. I walked through it, and the billing manager said to me, "There's not a process wrong. We have a really good process." I said, "All right, well, that's great. Well, maybe I'll learn something here. That's great." So we mapped it all out. We did a value stream map. We looked at all the waste and all that good stuff. And about halfway through the first day, they were explaining how they transfer information from one computer system to the next. And as they do that, then somebody in a different office, same building, has to edit that data because it doesn't transfer right? Because we all know EMRs all talk and transfer information cleanly, right? So, and she said, yeah, I said, well, how long does that take you? A couple hours every day. And they called it some code. I don't know what the code was. Well, when she said that, the gal that was sitting right next to her goes, "Oh, that goes to you? You make that code? I just delete that. We haven't used that in years." True story. So I just looked at the manager who was in the back and I went, and she's like, "Oh my God." So here's the definition for all those stages you go through. But this is no surprise to you. You go through these and you gain acceptance. And once you get into the learning, realization, and integration phase, it just takes off. The cool part is trying to slow them down a little bit once they get past all their fear and denial. So there's a sheet here that you can use, and again, I'll separate this out for you, but it gives you some questions to ask about change as you're going into an initiative. And it's just a quick help you to focus your thoughts. And if you say no on any of these questions, then you need to go focus on those, right? And you can do this in a small group or by yourself. But you're looking at, is there a clear and compelling reason for adopting this improvement? Right? Think about EMRs, right? The answer to that would be, yeah, right. We're being forced to do that, right? But what do you think a doc would say? I'm fine with my charts, right? Because I got 6 people working behind me getting that chart ready for me when I walk into the room. But this just helps you organize your thoughts. And really, when you're managing change, these are just some quick tips that I've seen that work. Recognize the root of resistance. Answer the leading questions, the leading change. Why do we need to change? What to change to? And how do we do it together? Again, it's all just communication. Be honest and truthful. Look for subtle change resistance behaviors and address them quickly. You gotta get on them. I just was organizing to work on a front desk call center, and I talked to the manager and the director of the practice, and I said, we want to be in the room. I said, great. However, you can't stand in the back of the room with your arms crossed, and when we say something, like ideas of how to do something differently, if either one of you say, "Oh, we tried that back in 1972 and it didn't work," I will personally escort you out of the room. So they got the idea. But you just need to be positive as you're going through this. And I'm not trying to oversimplify it. It will cause grief for you, but the more you have it structured, the better off you are. So that's change management. And I'm sure you're comfortable with that and you are aware of that. So now lean.